Okay, now what's the point of this, you ask? And this is all notes, all of it. Okay, all of it. It says there's problems on your own. They're not going to be on your own. Okay. Now here's the deal. Here we have to solve equations with x to the second power. Now, if an equation has x to the second power, there's two answers to this. So you need to find both of them. Not only that, you have x to the second, you got x to the first. So go over here and just write x second, x first. Whenever the x is to different powers and we have to find the answer for x, we need to use the factoring process, the most basic of which is the GCF. Okay? You're going to find these two answers here today. So I did the GCF for you on all these. Okay? You got x second, x1, that's a 1. That's a positive, so the GCF, and then 2 and 8 on that computer is it's 2. Okay, so what to do with the GCF? It comes out here. Then we go divide by 2x to the 1. Now, these are different, but these powers are the same, so we can get rid of those. So I divide 2 by 2. That's 1. Then on the x variable, I take 2 minus 1. That's 1. And then I take positive 8 divided by positive 2. That's 4. It's positive, so that'd be a plus. Now, this is why it's so important if you see 1 powers to get rid of them. Okay? All right, now that's where we've been stopping. Now, here's what you do after that. You need to put a parentheses around the outside of your own, and then write equals 0 behind it. Then I label each of these parentheses F1, that's called factor 1, and F2. And we come over here and we set each factor equal to 0. So 2x could equal 0, or 1x plus 4 could equal 0. Now I want the x's dotted and circled, both of them. Here there's no plus or minus, you're just dividing, okay? The opposite of times is to divide, so we take 0 divided by 2 is 0. Okay, then we do have a plus here. We need to minus 4 first. 0 minus 4 is not 0, okay? It's minus, it's negative 4. So 1 times x equals negative 4, and then you can divide then each side by the 1. Negative 4 divided by 1 is negative 4. Okay. So we did it. We found the two answers. Okay, there's more where that came from. Okay, 6x to the second power minus 15x. Again, there's two answers. When you're solving these, you always got to know how many answers and then what powers your x is to. X second and x first. So x second, x first. Okay. All right, so again, we have to use this factoring procedure, okay? Negative, the first number is not negative, so neither is my GCF. And you have x2 and x1, so x1, and on that computer, 6 and 15 would give me a 3. Okay, so 3x to the 1 factors out. Take that, factor it out, and go up and divide by 3x to the 1. And you should have the same power somewhere. It's usually on the second one, not always. So 99% of the time it is. Okay, then remember what we do. We divide 6 by 3, 2. Then on x, we take 2 minus 1. That's 1. And then we take negative 15 divided by 3 to get negative 5. Now, what should you do if you get a negative? Write a subtraction of 5. Now, get those 1s out of there. All those will do from now on is confuse you if you don't get rid of them. Now, I put equals 0 behind that because it's still equal to 0. I just took this crap and wrote it in a different form. And then I put a parentheses, and that's your F1, and that's your F2. So the F1 is 3x. That can equal 0. The F2 is 2x minus 5. That can equal 0. Okay, so we got 3 times x. and then 2 times x. Okay, so the opposite of times is to divide. You don't need to add or subtract, you just need to divide by 3. Now 0 divided by any number is 0. Okay, now over here we got minus 5. So we got a minus to undo. The opposite of minus is to plus. 0 plus 5 is not 0, it's 5. So 2 times x equals 5. Then we're going to divide by the 2. If 5 divided by 2 is a decimal, that's okay. 2.5. Okay, next problem. There are 2 answers. They all have 2 answers. And in all problems, we have x to the second and x to the first. So we've never had to do this, solve for x when there's different powers of x. We have to factor. Okay, so the first one's not negative, so neither is the GCF. We have x second and x to the first. So x first. So 3x to the first is out. And we divide by 3x to the first. Okay, the 1 and the 1, we can get rid of those. And then we divide 3 by 3, that's 1. And then there'd be an x. Then I take 2 minus 1, that's 1. Okay, 1x to the 1. Then we take negative 9 divided by 3. Now that's negative, so we need to write minus 3, not minus negative 3. Okay, don't do that. And the 1's go bye-bye. Okay, now after that we put equals 0. We put a parentheses around that, and that's F1. And that's F2. Okay, so F1, 3x can equal 0. F2, 1x minus 3 could equal 0. So we dot our x, because that number in front's multiplied by x, and circle it. Then there's no minus or plus. You just divide by your 3. But 0 divided by anything is 0. And over here you plus 3. 0 plus 3 is not 0, it's 3. So 1 times x equals 3. All right, and then we can divide by 1. If it's 1, it's going to be the same thing, but if you want to get in the habit, that's fine. 3 divided by 1 is 3. So 0 and 3 are my 2 answers for x. Okay, next problem. Notice how the first number is negative. Well, that's why the GCF's a negative. You got x second, or there's 2 answers, sorry. And we have x to the second and x to the first. So x to the first, and then 80 and 16 give me 16. So negative 16x to the first is my GCF. Okay. Then I divide by that thing. Okay, the first and the first can be crossed out. The second and the first cannot. Negative 16 divided by negative 16 is 1. Okay. Okay, then we take 2 minus 1, that's 1. Then I take positive 80 divided by negative 16, and that's negative 5. So if it's negative, you write minus 5 instead. So you get rid of those 1s because those don't serve a purpose once this is done. Wrap that up, put equals 0. So either this factor or F2 can equal 0. It's an either or. So negative 16x can equal 0, or 1x minus 5 can equal 0. So that's multiplied by x, and that's multiplied by x. So we're going to circle those. We don't have to add or subtract here. We just divide by the very same number that's multiplied by x, negative 16. Remember, 0 divided by anything is 0. Now over here, we're going to, opposite of minus 5 would be to add 5. Then 1 times x would equal 5. Okay. Well, you can divide by 1 if you want. It's not going to change it. 5 divided by 1 is still 5. Okay, next page. GCF 14x. Eventually you'll get a problem like that. You do the GCF in the box on your own, but today I just want you to get comfortable with it. So 14x to the 1 is a GCF. Again, there's two answers. This crap should be the first thing you do. And your x is to the second, and you also have an x to the first. Okay. So, negative in front, no. That's why that's positive. You have x on both. X second, x1. Okay. So 14x1 comes out. And we divide by 14x1. x1 cross out. The x2, x1 does not. Okay, 14 divided by 14. Any number divided by itself is 1. Then on the x, you take 2 minus 1, and that's 1. Then you take negative 28 divided by 14, that's negative 2. So it's negative 2, so we write minus 2. Okay, and we can get rid of these 1s. Don't need those there no more. Parenthesize that. That's F1, and that's F2. So F1 is 14x equals 0. And then F2 is 1x minus 2 equals 0. Okay, dot, dot, and circle. Dot and circle. Here you're just dividing. That's literally all you do if there's no plus or minus outside. 0 divided by anything is 0. And opposite of minus 2 is to add 2. So 1 times x equals 2. And you can divide by 1 if you really want, but it's just the same thing. It's 2. 0 and 2 are the two answers. Okay, I made a mistake here. The GCF should be negative 3 because the first number is negative. There's two answers because we have x second and we also have x to the first. Okay. GCF, oh, whoops, I already know it. Negative 3x to the first, okay. Then I go up and divide by negative 3x to the first. Okay, so I take negative 24 divided by negative 3. I get positive 8. Then on the x, again, we can cross these ones out. Those x's, not the 9 and the 3, the x and the x. Then 2 minus 1 is 1, okay. Then I take negative 9 divided by negative 3, and that's positive 3, so that will be plus 3. Get rid of those 1s in, okay. So wrap this up. And this is factor 1, this is factor 2. So, negative 3x could equal 0, or 8x plus 3 could equal 0. So, dot and circle your multipliers of the x. You don't have any adding and subtracting. You just divide by the same number, negative 3. A lot of people are like, would you divide by positive 3? Well, you have to divide by the exact same number. Is 3 and negative 3 the exact same number? No. 0. Now over here we have to minus 3. So we have 8 dot x equals whatever 0. It's 0 minus 3 is not 0. You're taking away 3 from 0, and that's negative 3. And divide by the same number. Okay, negative 3 divided by 8, negative 0.375. Negative 0.0375. Whoops, sorry. Negative 0.375. So sometimes that happens. You get a decimal. Okay, next one. We got two answers because we have x to the second and we also have x to the first. Okay. And also, by the way, whenever you have these, you need to see the equals 0. And you do on all these, okay? If you don't see the equals 0, if the x is a different powers, that's another problem. But I didn't put any of those today. Negative in front, nope. X on both of them, yeah, okay. first. Okay, then 8 and 4 is 4. So what do I do with that? It comes out here, of course. Then I divide 4x to the first, 4x to the first and the first cancel out. You scribble them out. Okay, so I divide 8 by 4, and that's 2. Now on x, we take 2 minus 1, and that's 1. And we take negative 4 divided by 4, it's negative 1, so that's minus 1. Okay, get those first powers out of there. Okay, oh, the equals zero's there. What do you know? So that's your F1, that's your F2. So 4x can equal 0, or 2x minus 1 can equal 0. Okay, so all we have to do here is divide. Okay, that's the only operation I have with the x, is multiply, so I divide. X is 0. Okay, here we have a multiplication, but we also have a minus. We got to plus it. Okay, you want to get it so it's just the multiplication. I divide by 2, divide by 2. 1 divided by 2 is 0.5. Okay, there we have it. Okay, let's keep on going here. Okay, you got two answers. You have x second, and again, you have x to the first. Okay, so 5x to the first gets factored out. Okay, and then I divide by 5x to the first, 5x to the first. These cancel. 5 divided by 5 is 1, and then 2 minus 1 is 1. Positive 30 divided by 5 is positive 6, so plus 6. Get these ones out of here. Now I'm going to start kind of going faster. Okay, that's F1, that's F2. So F1, 5x can equal 0, 1x plus 6 can equal 0. So dot those. You just divide by 5 here. That's all you do. 0 divided by anything is 0. And then you subtract 6. And some of you are like, oh, the first answer is always 0. Yeah, it is today. Not always going to be that way, but it is today. 0 minus 6 is negative 6. Divide by 1, divide by 1. It's still at negative 6. Okay, next one, we got two answers. We have x second, and we have x to the first. Okay. Okay, so x first. Now, the first number's negative. That's why the GCF's negative. 10 and 35 on that computer is 5. Okay, so negative 5x to the 1. Then go divide by negative 5x to the 1. And negative 10 divided by negative 5 is 2. Then on x, 2 minus 1 is 1. Okay, then I divide 35 by negative 5. I get negative 7. So what do? You write minus 7. And those should have been crossed out by me earlier. Sorry. Okay, wrap it. And then get rid of your first powers. You don't want those there. Because otherwise when I do the F1, F2, it makes it way more confusing than needed. Okay, so negative 5x can equal 0. Or the 2x minus 7 can equal 0. Okay, so we dot the negative 5 and circle it. You dot the 2 and circle it. You don't have any plus minus outside of that, so you divide by negative 5. 0 divided by anything, 0. Okay, minus 7, you got plus 7, 0 plus 7, 7. So 2 times x equals 7. Then divide by 2. 7 divided by 2 is 3.5. Okay, next problem. Two answers again. Because we have the x to the second, we also got the x to the first. Okay. So this was positive, so it's positive. You got x2 and 1, so x1. And then 18 and 6 would be 6. So 6x to the 1 comes out. Now some of you are like, why do you do 6x to the 1 and not by 2? I mean, the 2 would cancel here. Yeah, but 1 minus 2 is a negative. I don't want a negative exponent. Okay, so 6x to the 1, 6x to the 1. These cross out. 18 divided by 6 is 3. Then on x, 2 minus 1 is 1. 6 divided by 6 is 1. Get those first powers out. Okay, so 6x can equal 0, or 3x plus 1 equals 0. So dot the 6, circle it, dot the 3, circle it. You divide by 6 here, and that's 0. Then after plus 1, you minus 1. 0 minus 1 is negative 1. Divide by 3, divide by 3. Negative 1 divided by 3 is negative 0.3 repeating. Just put a repeating bar over that. Okay, 2 answers here. We have x second. We got x1. Okay, so the GCF has been found. Negative. It's negative because the first number is negative. So negative 8x to the 1. And then we put a 1 there and divide by negative 8x to the 1. Okay, so divide those. You get negative 32 divided by negative 8 is positive 4. Cross these out. Then x, 2 minus 1 is 1. Then we divide negative 24 by negative 8, and that's 3. It's positive, so it'll be plus 3. And we can get rid of these 1s then. Wrap it up, F1, F2. Okay, so negative 8x could equal 0, or 4x plus 3 could equal 0. So dot that, circle it, dot that, circle it, and then you can divide by negative 8 here. 0 divided by anything is 0. And then after plus 3, I'm minus 3. Minus 3. 0 take away 3 is negative 3. So 4 times x equals negative 3. Then divide by 4, divide by 4. Negative 3 divided by 4 is negative 0.75. Three x to the second minus 6x. X, again, you got 2 answers we have to find. We have x second, we got x1. Okay, so 3x to the 1's the GCF. Okay, these cancel. 3 divided by 3 is 1. Then x, we take 2 minus 1. That's 1. 6 divided by 3 is 2. You can get rid of your 1s. Those should not be there anymore. They help me to see what happened, but then when I'm here, I don't want them. F1, F2. Because that's going to look really stupid if I write 3x to the 1 equals 0 and 1x to the 1 equals minus 2 is 0. Okay, it makes it a lot more confusing. Divide by 3. Divide by 3. Okay, 0 divided by 3 is 0. Then plus 2, plus 2. Okay, and then you can divide by 1. 2 divided by 1 is 2. 0 and 2. Okay, 2 answers to the next one. And we have x to the second. We also got x to the 1. Okay, GCF, negative in front, no way. X second, x1, so x1. And 4 and 10 on that computer is 2. Remember, you would find that by punching those into the computer. Some of you know it's 2. Some of you, a lot of you probably don't. That's fine. I don't mean that as an insult. So divide this by 2x to the 1, 2x to the 1, and these cancel. Okay, divide 4 by 2 is 2. Then 2 minus 1 is always 1. Negative 10 divided by 2, that's how that needs to go in, is negative 5. So don't write plus negative, don't write minus negative. If it's negative, you write minus 5. Get those first powers out of there. F1, F2. F1, you get 2x, that could equal 0. 2x minus 5, that could equal 0. Dot them, circle them. So I divide by 2, you get 0. Plus 5, 2 times x is 5. Divide by 2, 5 divided by 2 is 2.5. It's a decimal, that's fine. Okay, next one, there's two answers. X second, x1. Okay, so you got x second, x1, and x1 is your GCF, and negative is in front, so my GCF's negative. Then 42 and 14, I have a 14 GCF, so I factor out negative 14 x to the 1, then I divide by the negative 14 x to the 1. Okay, x1 will always be able to be crossed out. So negative 42 divided by negative 14 is 3. Then on x, we take 2 minus 1 is 1. Then negative 14 divided by negative 14 is 1. So that's going to be, that's positive 1, so it's plus 1. Get rid of these. Okay, this is F1. This is F2. You set each of these equal to 0. So negative 14x can equal 0, or 3x plus 1 can equal 0. So dot it, circle it, dot it, circle it. So we're going to divide by negative 14 here. 0 divided by negative 14, 0. Minus 1, 3 times x equals negative 1. Then divide by 3. Divide by 3. Again, in the second one, there's always an adding and subtracting you have to do before you divide. Negative 0.3, repeating. Okay, finally we're at the end of this. Thank you for your attention. And you have x second, and you have x1. So x second, x1. So GCF. First number's negative, so the GCF's automatically negative. Okay, you have x second and x1. Okay, and then 12 and 30 on that computer spits out 6. So negative 6x to the 1. We're going to divide by negative 6x to the 1. Knowing that these cancel in the second one. Okay, negative 12 divided by negative 6 is 2. Remember how x works, you minus the powers. 2 minus 1 is 1. Okay, dirty 30 divided by negative 6, whoops. Divided by negative 6 is negative 5. So it's negative, so minus 5. I don't want that 5 as a negative. If it's negative, you write minus. Okay, so get those 1s out of there. We have F1 and F2. Okay, so negative 6x could equal 0. And there's the dot, circle it. And then 2x minus 5 equals 0. There's the dot, circle it. So you divide by negative 6. 0 divided by negative 6 is 0. Plus 5, 2 dot x equals 5. Then you divide by 2. And 5 divided by 2 is 2.5. All right. Not fun, but